Hello everyone, my name is Cassie Gilster, and for our art final project, I will be talking about the artist Claude Monet, and I specifically chose him because of his painting The Japanese Footbridge, and that is shown here. I was just flipping through the book, kind of looking for an artist that I wanted to invest time in and do this project on, and this picture just really stuck out to me. And so I chose this artist because of this picture. And I really like this painting because it's the type of art that I really enjoy. So the scenery and the nature, like lakes and beaches and flowers. Monet is the type of artist that really focuses on this type of life. And so I just really wanted to learn more about him. I really love this painting by Monet because it just really makes me happy. The green colors and the water remind me of my home because we have a creek that goes through the middle of our yard, and then we also have a bridge, kind of like the one in this picture, that goes over the creek. So that just also made me really want to invest more in this artist because I kind of had a personal connection with this picture. So after seeing this painting, I was really excited to learn more about Monet and his lifestyle, as well as dig deeper into other pieces of art that he has created. So first of all, I think it's important to talk about his life. Monet was born on November 14th in 1840 and died December 5th in 1926. He was originally from Paris, France, but in early childhood, he moved to the Normandy coast because of his father's job. His father sold ship provisions here, and that was just like selling groceries for the locals, and then his mother took care of the family. So in this slide, you can see the painting up in the left-hand corner, and these were fishing boats in Le Havre, which is where he then moved to with his family. And on every side, I've just posted a painting of his that kind of relates to whatever we're talking about. So I will note those during the slides. More about his life. His local success started when he was 15 with the sale of caricatures, which is what you see at like fairgrounds or any type of fun activity. It's the people who come in and they paint and they draw you and your friend and you kind of look like cartoons. So that's kind of what started his artist lifestyle. After that, he then went on to study more painting in 1862. And then during the Franco-Prussian War, he fled to Argenteuil, and there's a picture of Argenteuil up in the left-hand corner, and that's kind of where he went. And during this time, that was kind of the hub for people to move away from during the war because it was rapidly modernizing. So from 1872 to 1876, Argenteuil became kind of what was soon to be known as Impressionist painting. So this kind of is where Monet really flourished in his type of style. So after he fled here, in 1878, Monet moved to Venthuel, and then in 1883, he settled in Giverny. And Giverny is really important because this is where he would spend the rest of his years with his family and really invest in the type of painting that he did. So next I will talk about his family. Monet has a very interesting story with his family. So he had 2 children before he was married with Camille Dancieux, and their first child was in 1867 and the second was in 1878. And then later on, so Camille's health was already kind of in bad shape when she had her second child. And then in 1879, Camille passed away from tuberculosis. And that was just I was reading in the articles about Monet that this was a really troublesome time for him because him and his wife were very close, which I can only imagine how terrible that would have been. But then later on, Monet remarried and found love again in 1892, so that was quite some time before he had married Alice. And then Alice already had 6 children, but her husband passed away, so then that's Monet and her got together and they got married, but they never had any children together. So combined, they had 8 children, and then they moved to Giverny with this large family, and they stayed there for the rest of their life. So if you look up in the left-hand corner, this is kind of a little personal picture of Monet's life. This is where he lived with his family, and I just think it really says a lot about him because he chose to live in a very secluded place with a lot of nature and a lot of beauty. These flowers and just the whole home in itself, I think, really shows how kind of a peaceful man he was. And then more about Monet's work. So Monet is known for Impressionism, and that's the style that he has been doing throughout all of these paintings. So in the 1870s, he really depicted landscape. That was really important to him, and that's really what he focused on in this time period. And then he worked outdoors a lot, as you can see with all of the paintings that I have been posting. And then moving on to the 1880s, he turned his attention more to the Mediterranean and to the rugged vistas along the Normandy coast. And then in the 1890s, he undertook a number of paintings produced in series, which I will show in the next slide. But essentially, he painted the same scenery, but just in different time periods. So he would paint a picture in the morning, and then he would paint it as what it looked like in the night sky. And then lastly, it's just really important to note that Monet really focused on Giverny. That was his home, and he created over 250 paintings of water lilies. As you can see, that was on the Japanese footbridge, and just in the very first pictures, he really focused on the water lilies, which I think was really close to his heart. So this slide just shows his example of his 1890s painting in series. On the left, you can see that he was painting a cathedral in the sunlight, and then on the right, he was painting the same cathedral in the sunset, which I thought was really cool because I had never seen art like this before. So that's another thing that makes Claude very unique in his Impressionism style. Lastly, I would like to talk about the historical period that Claude came from, because I think it identifies a lot of who he is and kind of basically what he started. He was a huge person with the creation of Impressionism, along with a lot of other people. So first, I just want to define what Impressionism is. In the textbook, it's stated that a late 19th century painting style originating in Western Europe that attempts to capture subtle light qualities or fleeting moments with small strokes of strong color. So in the left-hand picture, I put this specifically in here because I think this really shows what Impressionism is. So you can see the strong strokes, and you can see the bold color, and you can see the texture is so evident, but even the people that you see on here, it's not clean cut, and you can't see a lot of structure, but you can tell that that woman is holding an umbrella, and you can tell that they're wearing hats, so you can still identify things. It's just not clean cut, but it focuses a lot on the texture and the colors of the painting. So I think that really depicts what Impressionism is. So another way you could describe it is that it is an attempt to accurately and objectively record visual reality in terms of light and color. Monet was not the only person who did this. He collaborated with a lot of people that he met in school, and they kind of formed this group that really focused on this type of art. So they worked together, they influenced each other, and then they lastly exhibited together. And the reason they did this is because Impressionism stems from not wanting to focus on the academic teachings, which really focus on the historical and mythological subject matter, but they really wanted to focus on the aesthetic of art. So really focusing in on that color, the tone, and the texture. So that is more about the time period that he lived in, and as you can see, it's very evident throughout all of his art. And lastly, I just want to talk about Monet's legacy and just talk about who he is. So as you can see, Monet's life looked like it was filled with a lot of color. All of his paintings that he had were just so vibrant, with flowers and with the ocean and with boats and people, and they just looked like he was really content with where he was at, but that's actually not true. After his wife died, he suffered from a lot of depression as well as financial issues, but he still seemed to find the beauty in the art that he made. So if I would have never done research on him, I would have never known that this man struggled from depression. And I even read in places that there were times where he wanted to commit suicide, and just from looking at his paintings, I would have never thought that. So I think it just goes to show that we never really know what somebody's trying to express through their art, and maybe the way that people do their art is so that they can instill a type of hope inside of them. So I thought that was really cool that he, even though his paintings were filled with color, he also experienced a great deal of sorrow. The second thing that I found was really important is that I learned a lot from this man that I never knew before I even started this project. I knew nothing about Claude Monet, so I think that speaks volume that we can learn a lot through people that we choose to spend time researching, and I'm really thankful that I chose him because his paintings are something that I will hopefully like to invest in and put in my home someday because I like them so much. And I just want to leave you with this. If you cannot find the beauty in anything else in life, and if you're just having a bad day, you can always find it in nature, and I think Claude Monet can attest to that greatly. So thank you for listening to my project, and I hope you learned something, and I hope that you enjoyed Claude's work as much as I did. And then lastly, here are my works cited. So thank you.